Like, nobody would ever have my band play the Four Seasons in Boston. Meanwhile, I'm like going in there and like they have my Evian water ready and they're like, is everything okay? Do you want us to valet your car? It's like, yeah, I love this. And what are you here for? I'm the DJ. Oh, you're the DJ? And everyone always hooks you up. You could be talking to the doorman. Hey, how come you're here? Bro, I'm just DJing. And they take your car. It doesn't even matter.
That's their job. They're valet drivers, Ben.
Yeah, but when you say you're the DJ, it's like you don't even have to pay them.
They're like, sir, we have to take everyone's car. Don't worry about it.
We're just doing our job.
All right, hold on. She's got her spritzer in true form. Okay, so here we go. With spritzer in hand, everybody, welcome to another episode of 2020. I'm Siobhan Cronin with Corey and Ben as always, and we are back with my darling, my partner, my string goddess, cellist, the amazing Zuzana, Z, darling, all of the various names I call her.
She's in Lost Symphony. She's in Lost Symphony now.
She's in Lost Symphony. She is in Starset. She is so much more than all of these things. She is wonderful. She was one of my dearest friends. So I am super happy that you came back to join us. And for all the binge listeners that love all the Starset episodes, here is more Z content for you.
Yeah, hello, everybody. That was a very grand entrance.
I'm trying to emulate Ben because Ben is like the king of the grand intros. So I'm trying to learn. I'm taking a page from his book today. And I'm trying to be extra descriptive with introducing everyone.
The problem is that we run out of things to talk about because it's all covered in the intro. But one thing we did leave out is the Raiders house band.
Yeah, exactly. So, Corey coming in to save us all.
As football season is winding, down here, let's talk about that. That's a pretty cool gig.
It's pretty amazing, and it's pretty intense too. I mean, it literally holds 65,000 people. And it's literally packed every game.
So how do you play Take Me Out to the Ball Game on the cello?
I think that's a baseball thing, right?
Baseball, football, it's all the same.
Well, isn't football just like European for soccer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so it depends.
Is that what we're talking? Isn't that what we're talking about? Like, there's like
the Raiders are the biggest soccer team in the United States, I think.
Oh.
I saw a video recently, and I think you guys were doing the Trans-Siberian style of Carol of the Bells, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was actually David Perico's arrangement of.
It was that, but it was like that heavy version that we're used to hearing.
Yeah, that was pretty fun to play.
Nice. So how did that come about? Because that's an interesting gig.
So last year, just right before I went on a tour with Starset, David got a call and. We actually went for audition. There were a couple other bands who were auditioning. So we auditioned, and I didn't know what the results are until I was midway through the tour, and then I found out that he actually got the gig. So that was pretty amazing. So last year was our first season. And it's pretty intense. I mean, we don't really play more than 25, 30 minutes total, but we play a little bit before the game, probably about 3-4 songs, when people are coming to the stadium and sitting down. And then during the game, every time there's a touchdown, we play a Raiders Nation touchdown song. And those are all a 20 seconds, 30-second songs, but it's a pretty long day, and you have to be literally on the call. There is no time to screw around, Yeah,
you don't want to be in the bathroom and then hear touchdown.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So wait, who so if there's a touchdown, who is the person that is getting you ready? Is it
David has a person who is basically running the show, talking. Okay, in 10 seconds, you're gonna, when there's touchdown, we already know that we have the touchdown segment. We have to have it ready. We all have charts, and we have to have that ready at all times. Because you just never know when there's gonna be a touchdown.
I don't understand, why can't they just film you playing it once and then just press play and it looks like you're playing it for the first time every time?
Because we are a live band.
Yeah, but they don't have to know it. It could be like the moon landing where they just make it seem like it's a real thing, but it's just clearly like a studio lounge.
Right, but no, that's not how it works.
You're trying to take jobs away from musicians, Ben. That's
What
turning
is-
everyone into a DJ.
Yeah, but I mean that takes away the magic of the live music.
Exactly.
I know we've been having like discussions offline about how tough it is to be a musician, especially like one that's hopping around to multiple gigs. I know Siobhan, you had some experiences recently, just dealing with the business side and booking and all that stuff. And Z, you have your own entertainment company as well, doing events like that. I know we touched on it in the last time we spoke, but can you just kind of give a summary of what you do when you're not being a rock star on tour?
So I also have my own company, and it's called Las Vegas Music Oasis, and it's basically most of our gigs are wedding ceremonies and cocktail hours. And recently we played a reception where the requests were Bollywood music, which Darling actually wrote some of my arrangements for this gig, and it went really really well. It was.
Wait, I thought you were just a cat burglar. I see all these videos of you with like these really pretty girls with like violins and stuff, but like you just look, you're going to like Caesar's Palace or something. I just figured you were stealing something.
It's all a heist.
No?
No.
That'd be a really good con. Those girls could totally like be like velociraptors. One of them's looking at you. You're really cool. Come up right behind you, take your wallet, boom, out of there.
It's really hard today, to be a musician, and I'm pretty sure Siobhan deals with same stuff as I do. When people want to book you, they expect a lot for very small amount of money, and we all paid our dues and put a lot of work into what we do, and studied all those hours practicing. We all have degrees, and
Yeah, but my nephew plays guitar, so I could just get him to come in for like $50 and like a ham sandwich. So
Well,
And I saw someone last week. They were playing cello in the park, and that guy only wanted $100 for 3 hours. So like, why would I not hire that dude? You both played cello.
well, I mean, you can, you basically get, what do you pay for?
The cheap comes out expensive, as Marilyn Milian from the People's Court always says. It's totally true.
I don't know, Siobhan, how do you feel about it? I'm pretty sure you have experiences
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
this part of
It's-
business.
it's like a massive conversation, and as Corey referenced, I mean, and you know this. I mean, you're constantly dealing with trying to explain to people and educate them on what is going into what they're buying, because it's musicians aren't widgets, right? It's not like you just go and you go to Target to buy an iPod or something and they're all presumably the same, right? But musicians are different. You're dealing with people that have different levels of training, different skills. For example, you with your company, it's like, somebody wants Bollywood music. Okay, but there's no Bollywood arrangements for string trio or a trio with piano, so that's going to take somebody that has the skill to do that, that's going to do it in a refined way, or just the fact that somebody that can do that. So that in itself is an asset, and it's a lot of time it's really hard to explain to people that, this is of immense value, because if it weren't, then go ahead and do it yourself.
there should be a movement that we need to, if it's not already started, we need to start it, of just awareness. We need to like rent like some like ad time,
What would you call that movement?
hashtag musicians too or something. I don't know. That'd be something.
I call it a bowel movement. I want to tell you a metaphor about what the music industry is right now. So today, Siobhan and I had a very wonderful conversation about how she needs to brand herself better. And Zuzana, like you as well.
Was it a lecture?
Well, it was a lecture, because let me tell you what happened the other night. So Paul Lorenzo, the drummer from Lost Symphony, our band that we're all in, he and I are lamenting that nobody cares about, first off, anything in landscape format. So you can't even watch anything in 16:9 anymore. You got to watch it in this portrait, real format that's literally just the phone cut out. And Paul's like, nobody cares about my music. Nobody cares about my drumming. And I'm like, but you're funny. He's like, who cares? I'm like, but if you tell people that you're funny, you show them that, it'll draw them to your music. And he seemed very depressed. So I said, watch this. I pointed my phone in his face. I said, Paul Lorenzo, drummer from Lost Symphony, do you have any advice for anybody? And he goes, no. Take that, cut it up, put it on the internet immediately. By the time we were done recording drums, he had 1,400 hits, which is more than the people that have seen him this entire year perform. We're content creators. That's what we are. We create content, and our secondary thing is being a musician. So if Siobhan wants to have people listen to her music and pay more for her as a gig, they need to see her in their stories ahead of time doing cool things with social proof. And then they'll be like, I don't mind spending that extra money on her. I saw her in my story and she seems like she's smart.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's about branding. I mean, it's like, you know that when you go to Louis Vuitton, that's the product and that's the cost, and you have to be prepared to pay that. You're not going to go and be like, oh yes, but there is also a canvas bag at Sears that's $25. So how about you give it to me for $25? Like, no, that's just not what it is.
Right.
But also on top of that, the onus is also that you have to establish that brand, which I agree with. It's like, you do kind of have to do some of that upfront work of like making it very obvious that this is who I am, this is what I'm worth, this is what I can do. And sometimes that's harder to do because a lot of people are just so disconnected from the music industry that they just don't get that value.
What's the number 3 of the list I gave you today for yourself, Siobhan?
Yeah, I think you forgot what number 3 was, but you said
no,
that 1
you
and 2
forgot
are
it.
valid.
You forgot.
I forgot. Yeah.
So what's number 3?
Ben's list of things that I had to work on this year was number 1 is self-love. Number 2 is self-confidence.
What?
Number 3 is accepting that 1 and 2 are true.
Okay, so hold on with the Louis Vuitton reference. So when you walk into Louis Vuitton, you don't expect to buy a Louis Vuitton trunk for $40 because it has Louis Vuitton on it. Because you believe that even if it's not high quality, that it's Louis Vuitton and therefore it's worth it. That's number 3 on your list, is walking into Siobhan's house and knowing that you are the Louis Vuitton, and that if someone were to take you out, that they should know the value and that no one ever questions, because that's what your problem is. People want to beat you down because they don't know your value. And what I'm telling you is your brand is projecting your value, so they already know what you're worth before they even talk to you.
Yeah, but see, like when you say, okay, so because people, they don't know your values, like if they look at Siobhan's videos of her skills, like that to me should be knowing the value. You know what I mean?
I agree. I mean, I agree,
So
but
that's what frustrates me.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure you should talk more about that because like I think it's something we all struggle with because even having a presence on social media, sometimes I'm surprised. I think a lot of people just don't even pay attention, or they don't even look. They just don't even know. They're just like, oh, here's somebody who's got violin in her name and she's located in the place that I'm looking for a violinist. And so they just assume like whatever, but they're not looking to see what my profile is or what my background is. And, maybe they don't care. I don't know.
But that's real-time feedback. That's finding out that literally nobody gives a fuck. You're right. Nobody cares about you. So if Paul's sitting there making a funny wittyism or sharing a picture of his cat, all of a sudden it gets likes. So what I've realized is if you want people to listen to your music and care about you, you just have to make all this completely superfluous entertainment for people about cats and dogs and life that they can all laugh about. And then all of a sudden you'll get subscribers and then they'll actually watch what's important to you.
And then you get sucked into just being a content creator and lose all semblance of whatever your initial dream was. And you get sucked into the algorithm and your life becomes a meaningless loop of dopamine hits and likes, right?
Mm.
Well, anyway, but before we get too derailed, coming back to Z, because we can't assume that everybody has watched our podcast before. So we've got Z, who is my bandmate in Starset, and we're talking about the fact that she runs a business and does a lot of these other amazing things, plays with the Raiders house band. But let's come back and talk about like your business and what made you decide to start it and how you've gone about starting it, and maybe so us or anyone that's listening can learn about what that's like and some of the things that you go through. Like we were talking, what started this is that recently you had some requests for Bollywood music, which is not your typical wedding request, and so that involved you asking me to write some arrangements and having to negotiate with the people hiring you, like how to make this work. So, talk a little bit about your business.
The reason why I really started this was to have something for future, because I feel like I'm not going to be always touring and traveling. We will get to the age where it's going to get harder and harder. But having business like this, it's, you can run this business and be 100, even though, you don't attend these weddings as a player, you still have musicians you can send to these weddings, and you can still, laugh all the way to the bank.
Oh, so you brought up a good point, because I mean, I DJ, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I always joke around about how people, I do the neurotic guitarist, the neuroticguitarist.com, and I have all these crazy guitars. And one of the first questions is, are you rich? And the answer is no, but I DJ. So like, it's like, what band are you in? It's like, doesn't matter that I'm in Lost Symphony. We play with Marty Friedman and Jeff Loomis and Satchel and Ollie Herbert. That's not the reason I have all these guitars. It's because I do weddings, because that's something that's a commodity. That's what people need. So even though you're in Starset, a band with billions, with a B, streams, you're thinking about how when you get older, you can automate it, that you can get your other Jedi string players to do this, because there's a demand. So it's crazy, because when I'm doing my DJing thing, I can make more money doing that than a lot of my friends who are playing huge festivals. And it's a much more sustainable business. And that's crazy that I can go and press play and put on Earth, Wind, and Fire and have people give me more money than some of my friends going and playing in front of 40,000 people in Stockholm. Like, do you want to speak to that as somebody who's doing the wedding industry while being in Starset?
I mean, I see what you're saying, but when it comes to my business, I feel like people are always going to get married. I'm located in Vegas, and there's always people coming to get married in Vegas, no matter if it's summer, if it's winter, And so yeah, that was another thing that I kept in my mind, that that's people never gonna stop getting
It's
married,
future proof.
and
Yeah, it's future proof.
exactly.
It's
Yes,
it's a constant industry for sure.
yeah, and I remember, my gosh, I started like 4 or 5 years ago. This company. I mean, the first year I had no idea what I was doing, and I had to learn to be firm with putting my foot down with what I need, in order to provide them with excellent service. And because, people will use you. You have to
Yeah.
be very, very upfront about what it costs. And it's like sometimes it's very hard, because that they're paying a lot of money for cake. They're paying a lot of money
Mhm.
for flowers. And it is frustrating sometimes, to feel like the musicians are basically on the bottom of the list.
I just want to say this, that I lost one of my friends for 25 years of my life because I was trying to help him by DJing his wedding, and he wanted to spend $500, which you probably know is I charge way more than that. And I was like, dude, come on, at least give me like 1,000. That's like the lowest friend price I would have ever done. Like I'm a high tier DJ. And he kept talking to me about how he needed to get imported beer for all his friends, and he was paying for the beer out of his pocket. And I'm like, dude, first off, he was Jewish and had very specific things that he wanted that like only other Jews would know. And I'm like, you're just going to hire a jamoke for $150 and be like, yeah, I hope you know how to say like, all the order of what Jews do, because like we're very specific people. But like he actually accused me of trying to poach him and shake him down for money by being like, I'm worth $1,000. And his whole family, like who I've known since I was a child, was like, oh yeah, no, he was just trying to like screw Josh out of money. When I'm like, I'm trying to save your wedding. He literally said to me, well, I could just put on an iPod. He has people coming from around the world. It's like, you're going to have people coming from around the world, go to someone's backyard, and you're going to be like, hey man, thanks for coming. Here's my Dave Matthews Band remix.
Yeah. But the thing is, he totally could do that. And it would just be, it's no longer, an interactive event that people are going to remember, like
Exactly.
that. It's a different experience. Listen, you can totally hire your nephew to play guitar in the corner of your party and you just be, hey, good job, buddy. Like, that's great. But no one's going to be talking about that. Like the entertainers at weddings and events and corporate events and all those things, they have so much to do with the atmosphere that, people, they might not remember every detail of it, but they're going to remember the quality of what was going on. I know whenever I'm doing corporate or like wedding events, and half the time we are off to the side, completely, isolated from the actual activity that's going on. And it's like, oh, no one even cares we're here, whatever, just doing this, paid practice kind of gig. And, we always do our best and everything. And then on the way out, I'll have 15, 20 people come over, like, you guys were phenomenal. Like, we were in the back corner, we were listening the whole time, like, had such, like, and then they'll go, if it's a corporate event, we talk to the planner, they're going to have you back for the next one. And it's like,
Amazing.
People actually cared that we were here. If it was just a radio playing, those people might have left earlier, or they might not have, like, it might have just been, oh, it was a crappy work party. We just had some free drinks at the open bar and left. But, like, you don't realize how important it is to have the quality if you're trying to put on a quality event. You can't skimp on something as important as the entertainment like that and expect all the money you're spending on everything else to be, carry that over for the entertainment of everyone.
And absolutely, I agree 100%. And, sometimes you get brides that, you tell them your price for whatever they want, and that's it. They don't even blink. But then you have brides or grooms or whatever clients who, just wants all kinds of discounts, for a lot of work. And I agree. When you have a live entertainment and, like, for example, like when we have a string quartet at the wedding, and then I see that on the reviews when I get the reviews from my events, and everybody, I mean, literally everybody is talking about, like, the atmosphere and how magical it was to have a strings, at the wedding, and the girls look so nice and sounded beautiful. And, it's just,
Can I tell you
agree.
what sucks? Is I'm friends with you and Siobhan, and I do weddings all the time, and I'm around string quartets, and I'm just like, oh, your intonation sucks. Like, I hear that, like, all everything sounds wrong. Because first off, Corey, I used to think I was in tune and I played in time, and then Corey, like, used to show me, that's not in tune, that's not in time, you have to do it again. And to the point where now I just record everything to a DI, so I'm like, fix it, it's a clean signal. Just make it fake. Because I suck so much. But now that I've learned to hear how much I suck, I hear how much everyone else sucks. And when Siobhan's like, I haven't practiced this, but then she's playing like Paganini perfectly at 275 BPM. Or I listen to you on, like, I'm going through my stories. Again, I'm going through my stories. I'm drinking my coffee on the toilet, and I'm like, oh wow, look at Z just murdering it on the cello. And then the next one's Mariko.
Z-Ben is watching you while he's on the toilet. Let's just
That's where everyone watches you. Listen,
and drinking coffee while on the toilet, which is an interesting combination.
Well, that's how I go. But listen, but don't you realize that's how everyone consumes their information? If you can't be consumed on your iPhone, in the bathroom, while you're drinking your coffee, on your 2-second break at work, no one cares. If you can grab their attention then, that's how you know. So when she's playing, like, I don't know, like the theme to whatever, and it's like beautiful, I'm commenting on it. That's, even though I'm friends with Z, even though I know she's amazing, I've seen her play, every time it reminds me, oh, she's so good.
That's sweet.
And they're so bad. That's what I'm getting at. Everyone else sounds like shit compared to you guys, because now I've heard what good sounds like. It's like when you listen to speakers and you're like, that sounds good in your car stereo. And then you go over to your billionaire friend's house. He's like, listen to this, and blows you away like Back to the Future. That's what it's like. You hear like a string quartet. You're like, oh, cool. They sound pretty cool. And then you hear you girls. It's like, I have video of you girls with Mariko doing the middle section of the new Lost Symphony song. And I'll play it for like my mom. And I'm like, aren't you proud of me? I had something to do with this. Like, literally, that's the most proud I've ever been. Shota Nakama, who came on the show, who did all the soundtrack for Final Fantasy, he was standing there while you girls were performing. And I was just looking at him like, see?
I think my favorite Shota moment from this entire experience was, like, on a level of 1 to 10, what was your rating of the chaos of this experience? And he was like, about a 9. Oh my God.
Oh boy.
Well, that's what Lost Symphony is by far.
It's a 9 out of 10.
Is it not? It's organized chaos.
It's 11.
More emphasis on the chaos with a slight bit of organization, which is the only reason we have ever actually released anything. But the chaos is definitely the primary function of that band.
Did we tell Z we have a new album she needs to play on?
What?
What?
All the new songs. We're going to have to record more stuff. Mariko's already on it. Yeah.
Okay.
So while you guys were doing other things like playing for the Raiders and, touring with Starset, I was recording songs with Paul Lorenzo, our drummer. And I decided that our new song that's so grandiose might be complex for people to digest. So then I wrote a bunch of badass metal, sent it to Corey. He affirmed that it wasn't that bad. And then Siobhan's like, this stuff's pretty cool. So I said, you know what? Let's put some strings on this too. And Mariko, because she's my real life friend, still put strings on everything. Because here's the great thing about her. She could be playing with Adele, and the whole time she's thinking, I hope somebody calls me and asks me to play on a death metal song. Dude, her fucking slides and glissandos. Dude, no one glissandos like Mariko.
You have a special talent for talking about people that aren't on this podcast right now.
Just throwbacks to previous awesome episodes you guys can go check out.
Fair enough.
I think Mariko went home. I think she went
What's
home
that?
to see her dad. I think she went to Japan for like a week or something. Yeah.
She did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Adele is on a break until I think like the 21st. And I think it goes back to every weekend until end of March, I think.
I've never had much of a desire to go to Vegas. No offense. I'm not a gambler, and like I don't like spending a ton of money on like.
Hey, you've never been?
I've never been.
Wow.
You gotta come visit
You gotta
me.
go once.
Absolutely. I was going to say I would love to see the shows. I think that would be really cool, and obviously to hang out with you guys. So I'm gonna have to add that to the list. One thing in terms of having a business like that, an entertainment company in an area like Vegas or even Miami, like which are pretty big destinations. There's a lot of money, there's a lot of events and stuff going on. And Siobhan, you also kind of dip into the Keys a bit, which is another world famous destination. I also, since I work in the same industry doing weddings and corporate events and stuff like that, but I'm in Boston, which is it's nice, but it's not like this destination. So I feel like the pool of talent and the competition here is probably a lot different than what you're dealing with where you guys are. Can you talk a little bit about breaking in to the industry in that area of performing and how difficult it is to establish yourself and what that looked like?
When I moved to Vegas, it took me about 6 months to get in because you move here, nobody knows who you are. So I basically send out audition tapes and basically knocked on the doors, and I started to be called as a sub, like for example with David's band, with Pop Strings. I was just called for the subs a few times, and then there was an opening for a cellist, and I basically got in. So in this band, there's 2 cellists. There's 2 first violinists, 2 second violinists, 2 violists, and 2 cellists. So 6 string players. The good advantage for me was that I was a female and a string player, and people are always yes. People are always looking for female string players in Vegas. I mean, it's great for us, but I know a lot of male cellists who are incredible, and they don't work as much as us because they're guys.
Boring.
Right. No, but yeah, it took me about 6 months, and and then I sent my audition tapes for Bella Electric Strings, and the same owner, Nina Di Gregorio, also had a Femmes of Rock band, which is, I don't know if I ever mentioned that to you guys, but it's basically the repertoire is all classic rock, and basically there's 4 female string players in front of the band, and they play all classic rock medleys. So the original 4 girls is all violin players, but sometimes when people get busy, then she started to hire in cellists, and so I was one of their cellists to play whatever Hotel California, so guitar hits, solos, and whatever. It was like a lot of fun, and so that was another band that I got into. I don't play as much with them anymore because I'm touring with Starset, so the schedule is very busy, and it
Right.
just
What about in terms of your own company and like kind of obviously you're great at what you do, so you got into those gigs and you're killing it with them, but then to have to then go and then those are established acts, to then go on your own and say, hey, hire me please. What was that like?
Yes. So at first it was just my name. And I was like, okay, I gotta have a website and like try to, get gigs. So So I just built a website and I built a profile on, I think it was Gigmaster. I don't know if it's still around,
Yeah,
gigmaster.com.
yeah, a lot of those. I'm listed on a lot of those too. So that I think that's a huge like entry point for
Yeah, I don't know if
finding
you know
people.
Gig Salad.
Hmm.
That's another company. So I was on that, and eventually I got hired to play wedding ceremonies for different companies. Like they
Hmm.
needed a cellist for a string trio, um, or string duo, and I kind of like the business. I like the way how I just like the events, and I was like, oh, maybe this would be good for me to have like my own, and then kind of have like my own idea of how I want to run my business, how I want it to look. Because there were like few things that I didn't like. I was like, oh, I don't think I want to do it that way,
Like what?
like charts, for example. Charts were like all over the place, they were like literally not even for string players.
Hmm.
Or you get a chart with like chords, guitar chords, and then like just figure it out. You know what I mean? Or the way how um the other players were dressed. You know what I mean? Like it was not like classy enough for me. Or and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like rude about it, It's just I had like
No.
my own picture in my head how I would like that to look.
But that comes back to the branding. I mean, you're totally right. And this is like, to highlight that you get what you pay for. Like it was the same for me, like I would show up to gigs, and if it was a low paying gig for a wedding, the person would be flying in because they just came in from some other gig and they're rushing and they've got a million sheets of paper. And you're right. It's like, here's a piano chart. And we're just going to read it. And it always ends up sounding terrible. It doesn't
Right.
work. Everyone's frantic. It's not well rehearsed. And people know that like if something is wrong, it looks chaotic, it sounds chaotic. But
Mhm.
then it's like there's a disconnect between like, well, why did that happen? It's like, well, because that's what you paid for, and people only put in as much work as they're going to for that price.
Well, that's really important because that's something that because I'm not a cheap DJ when I DJ, and people will be like, why are you so expensive? And I always say, because I'm worth it.
Because people are willing to pay.
Well, because people, yeah, that's what's the difference between $1,000 violinist and a $10,000 violinist? The $10,000 violinist asks for it.
And they get better gigs. It's like,
But that's the truth. So that's what I was about to get at, because I find all the gigs that are cheap and people beat me down that little bit. Those people make you work harder, and they're the ones that ask for their money back versus the people that are like really easygoing. And that's why I've always put myself as a premium service and said that to people, because I say, listen, if you're hiring me, you already know that I'm good at what I do. What I also am good at is making things easy for you and communicating. You know what I mean? It's not like I can't just build your bathroom. I'll let you know how long it's going to take and actually show up when I say I'm going to. And that's a huge thing for people. And like what you're saying is, guess what? All the gigs that you do, like I started doing high-end weddings, and I always thought to myself, I would not be allowed here if I wasn't playing here. Like nobody would ever have my band play the Four Seasons in Boston. Meanwhile, I'm like going in there and like they have my Evian water ready, and they're like, is everything okay? Do you want us to valet your car? It's like, yeah, I love this. And what are you here for? I'm the DJ. Oh, you're the DJ? And everyone always hooks you up. You could be talking to the doorman. Hey, how come you're here? Bro, I'm just DJing. And they take your car. It doesn't even matter.
that's their job. They're valet drivers, Ben.
Yeah, but when you say you're the DJ, it's like you don't even have to pay them.
They're like, sir, we have to take everyone's car. Don't worry about it.
We're just doing our job.
It's just cool to see what you guys are doing, like, at that premium level and having that integrity in those locations.
Mhm.
Siobhan, when you were doing the stuff in Miami, like, what was that like? Did you do the same thing? Did you join in with other like projects and groups? And is that how you kind of establish yourself to the point now where you're, booking out other people?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was like being hired by other companies. I mean, obviously I came here and I really didn't know that many people. And, I was in the classical scene. So I guess that's kind of how I met, I got into certain ensembles like the ballet or the symphony. And so that's how I kind of met other string players. And then inevitably, I mean, I don't know about Vegas per se, but Miami is an interesting scene in the sense that there is an overabundance of events and concerts and things, and not an overly saturated market. Like if you think of New York or LA, where it's like, the best of the best. They're everywhere in every block, right? So here it was like at the time that I moved, there were a lot of people looking for entertainment or for people to play, but not really a lot of super strong people. So if you were like one of the violinists that could play like in tune and in rhythm, you were like already kind of like one of the top picks, And then if you could dress well and you could be professional, and I mean, it sounds really silly, but that was like kind of a hard thing to find here at the time.
I've noticed the biggest thing, and I think it's a universal truth that we've touched on before, but I think it's important to say is if you're cool, it goes so far. Because I've done a lot of gigs where the event coordinator or the planner will come over and they're out of their mind, they're stressed out. It's the day of the event, and then like, oh, we need to push back dinner. Can you play for another like 20 minutes? Well, yeah, whatever, that's fine. And like that kind of thing goes so far in terms of us getting repeat bookings at like nice venues. Then I guess a lot of people, and I know this is probably like the older groups that I see that are just they've been doing this too long and aren't able to find joy in it anymore. And I think they treat people kind of shitty.
Just over it.
Yeah. But I think they take it out on like, if you're doing events, everyone else, the vendors, they're on your team. Like, so you should be cool with everyone that's like, behind the scenes.
Hold on. There's the opposite of that too, because we're in Boston. So there's a lot of Berkeley kids that get right out of school and they join these bands that get paid $10,000 or $15,000. And like, I've seen these people and they're like entitled and they're just a bunch of assholes that show up and they're entitled.
They got to pay off that Berkeley debt, man.
Yeah. But they think that they're entitled to do all this stuff because they're better than everyone. And it's like, bro, don't tell me until you played gigs for literally nobody for 10 weeks straight and you still show up. But here's the crazy part. No one comes into your bar and yet it took you an hour to find parking. Explain that.
I'm not on the side of booking the events and hiring musicians and stuff, but the things that you have to keep in mind and the ways to stay top of mind like that, it goes a long way just to be respectful and have the quality of talent. It's almost too easy if you just actually consider those things.
Right. But there's like a thin line between having people to use you and be nice to them for what they're asking you to do, Like when you mentioned, like, sometimes like you guys you're on the way to the gig and your singer calls you like, oh, I just heard the song, we're just listening to it, we're going to play it, it's a little different, with these ensembles,
I should specify we're a 4-piece or 5-piece band, like, drums, bass, guitars.
Yeah, and I have a
vocals.
lot of respect for that you guys can just listen to the song and then just kill it,
Yeah, we don't have to worry about like, all the intricacies of a string. So it's a little bit of like apples and oranges, but more so it's I was trying to explain like the way we look at the gigs. Like I would never like I've played with other bands where like if I was like, hey, like let's try a new song, they're like, what? We haven't like rehearsed that and I need to know the da da da. And I guess I'm just used to like we have in-ears and a talkback mic and we'll be in the middle of a song and a singer will walk back to the talkback mic like, guys, let's go into this other song, but I don't usually do it in this key. This is while we're playing the previous song. He's like, we're going to try this, like a step and a half up, like, and 3, 2, 1. Like we're in
My
it,
favorite ever. Corey and I were doing a wedding and he was playing guitar and I started playing Pachelbel Canon twice double speed. And he's supposed to play the I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was Wicked Baked or something. I don't know. And Corey was like,
this is a ceremony. They're walking down the aisle.
Newport, Rhode Island. Like this is as high stake. Like where you say destination. Like people are like, oh, what's the most beautiful place in the United States? Let's go to Newport. Like that's literally like,
yeah, we're at a yacht club,
right? And Corey gets all mad at me. He's like, dude, I can't even believe that you did that. I'm like, they don't fucking care. He's like, dude, but I care. I'm like, they don't care. And you want to know what they did? They tipped us. They thanked us and gave us a 5-star review.
Because you guys were cool.
The reason, yeah.
He played it like Yngwie Malmsteen.
It was way too fast. And then when I was like, I'm like, hey, you're playing too fast. You just stopped and then started over again. So that was super professional. Anyways,
I mean, it happens.
They were filming us.
What it comes down to is no one cared because then we went and you did the DJ thing. Everyone had a great time. By the end of the night, as long as the last song kills, no one gives a shit about anything else. That's
That's
important.
100% true. We always film the last song, and I always make them like, I'm like, hey man, we're doing it for faith. We go, ah! And then if anyone's like, that night sucked, I'm like, I just send them the song, Dropbox, and I'm like, really?
So on the note of Ben absolutely ruining someone's wedding, Z, like, do you have any cool like stories from events like that? Maybe not ruining a wedding, but anything unique that's happened or that you've had to like deal with last minute?
So actually, few weeks ago, we had a gig for David. It was for I think it was for a Nevada college. They had like a awards night, and we had like a 4 specific songs. It was like a gala with dancers and singers, and so our band played a song. I can't remember the song, but it was with one of the singers from the college, and so we had a sound check, and it was actually in a completely different key, and we all have charts, right? And yep. And so the professor of the student, like it was a best students were performing, at that gala, and like one of the singers was performing, one of the students, and the song just did not sit well with her voice, and her professor was like, "What was this? I can't remember the key." And so we had to like drop the key like on the spot, and like we killed it. I mean, we had to drop the key like we dropped the key like the whole step down. If we would be doing it like a half step or like step and a half, it would be harder to read. And the chart
Like what
wasn't
happens
really,
in Starset.
yeah, exactly. And you know how I feel about that. But it wasn't like a super hard chart, so we had to do it like, and it was. I mean,
so what happened with Starset?
Oh, just, whenever we're doing acoustic things, a lot of times, like especially on these acoustic tours, we'll, try and throw together an arrangement of one of the live songs. And if it's not feeling good in that key, it's like, all right, well, we'll play through, and then Z and I will do our charts, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, let's try it a half step down. Or let's do it a whole step down. Right. Oh, let's go back up the other step. And of course, with the guitar, it's like, all right, slide the capo, but then Dowling is over in the corner sweating bullets like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
I'm
like,
pulling up the chart, so let me look at the chart. Yeah. Well, Shivani's actually, she's really good with that. She's quick. But I remember my first times with Starset. My very first tour, this was happening a lot and like on the spot, and I was stressing. And I got better over the years. And Destiny's getting better with that too. Like we will practice it a few times and then we'll perform it, in a different key. But it used to happen like on the spot, like during the VIPs, like, oh, I want to drop this half step down or, step and a half down, like these weird keys,
Yeah, but come on, give it back to Dustin because Dustin knows that like Ron can fix the bus. Dustin knows that Siobhan can play piano.
That's your favorite thing to reference.
Dustin knows that Brock can build a fucking desk. So like, if he's like, hey man, can you play the song in real time a step and a half lower? How could you not expect that huge, big brain, sexy ass dude to not expect you guys immediately to not be better? Like because here, you know what? She's not on the show, but I don't think Mariko would complain. I'm kidding. I'm so fucking kidding.
Is there a program or an app that you can chart into that record like speech, not like how you can draw to text, but it would do that with music notes that you could then like transpose or do anything like that? Does that exist?
I think Darling, can you do like when you play something on a keyboard and it like, as Dusty would say, spits out the chart?
Well, yeah, you could even when we do it in Sibelius, you have to go into the program and just like transpose it.
Like, just like transport, like, okay, let's put this like half step down.
But not, no, if you were in a situation, like when we're in a situation, it's like we've just played through the song and then 10 seconds later, it's like, let's try it a half step down. There's no time to do anything.
I remember I have Manifest in like 4 different keys. Literally 4 different keys.
No, by the way, I'm just joking about the whole Dustin thing because you guys are so talented that really, like, when you say that, like, But again, I know in my head, because like I learned very quickly when Siobhan came the first time to do Lost Symphony, I could be like, just write a harmony. And she'd do it right. If she didn't do it right by like the second time, I was surprised. Like, and that's the thing. I think, don't you think that being thrown to the fire has helped you get better? Because I feel like, I mean, Siobhan, since the first day I met her, and now, like, it's amazing.
Oh, absolutely,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if I would, like, for example, we were talking about Sibelius, right? I've never had to transcribe anything and, like, write it down. Like, I always, like, would just, like, listen and play. But when I joined the Starset, they had 3 albums. They had 2 albums that were already out, and my first tour was Divisions, which was their 3rd album. And so the first 2 albums, Mariko wrote all the charts. Like, she transcribed all the charts for me. And so I had to, like, kind of memorize all of them. And then the 3rd album, Divisions, I had to write them because she was already out.
Mhm.
So I had to, like, transcribe that stuff and, like, write it down because it was just, like, so much to learn that I needed to write it down, because there was so much memorization that had to be done in, like, 2 months. So that's how I started to write stuff in Sibelius. And, like, your ears definitely get better because you're, like, forced to listen, even though you get stems, you get string stems from Starset, but they're not separate. They're, like, not separate cello stems or violin stems.
Yeah, and they're also probably played on a MIDI keyboard. Like,
and they're mixed
like,
with
like that
they're,
note
like,
doesn't exist. Yeah,
right. They're, like, mixed with MIDI. There's always, like, a MIDI on the bottom. So it's kind of hard to, like, hear those parts, like
for the
separate
for people listening, real quick, I just want the program you're talking about. Can you just explain that real quick for anyone that's not familiar? Is it Sibelius?
I think Darling would be better with explaining.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so Sibelius. It's like a notation. So you might have heard of Finale, but Sibelius is an Avid product. So, you can basically music notation, orchestral scores or just single line scores, and you can record like using a MIDI keyboard, or you can notate it with the computer. So yeah, basically that's when we go through, like for example, when I get the Starset stems, I'll usually, pull everything into my DAW and listen through everything and then notate it and then export the MIDI into Sibelius so I can get the actual notation. So I could have like a PDF chart, to pull up on a set list or something.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're like more advanced with that. Like I still just write everything, listen and writing. You know what I mean? Like I don't play like on a keyboard and then, through the Sibelius.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Like, so even coming back to your company, like when I do arrangements for her, if it's, I had to do a bunch of Bollywood arrangements for this gig that she had. So I'll pull the.
By the way, it was a great success.
Good.
Yeah. They were literally asking me if we have a CD, like with our recordings.
Wow.
How old are they?
We'll buy it. I'm like, So yeah.
An 85-year-old. Can I buy a CD? Do you have CDs?
I will say though, Bollywood music
here.
Yeah, no, but I've never, and I've had to arrange things before, and I don't know if you've ever had to do this, Z, but like Bollywood music, I've never had to actually adapt it to like classical instruments like string quartet. And a lot of it's super rhythmic and kind of like different like rhythmic subdivisions. So it was
I didn't want to derail the conversation too much, but I got to ask, like, how the hell do you arrange Bollywood music? Is that something you've done before? Like that's like, oh, Siobhan just arranged some Bollywood, score. Like, it's like that. Where'd that come from?
No,
I'm sure it was definitely a challenge. I mean, to pick the lines from the song to make a point of the song, that was challenging. I'm sure, Siobhan. It was challenging. I'm sure it was challenging for you to write it, transcribe that, and it was definitely challenging for us to like. It's not something that you can just come in and side read. Like we had to get together and go over those charts.
Yeah. Well, so this, it was a necessity. So I remember we were on the acoustic tour and Z got a request for a gig and she's like, oh, well, they want, and I had done a few arrangements for her before because, this happens. Somebody wants a certain ensemble and then they want a certain piece played for the ceremony or a cocktail hour and it doesn't maybe it exists online, but it's a bad arrangement. It's for the wrong instrumentation. So, you have to then go back to the client and say, okay, well, if you want this and you want it for this ensemble, we have to do a special arrangement, and then you need somebody that knows how to arrange it. So this client that she had wanted Bollywood music, and she asked me, oh, would you be up for this? I'm like, yeah, sure. Of course. It's got to come from the same skill set. But I mean, it was difficult because you think of like, okay, you got a pop song or a rock song and you've got your intro, you've got a verse and like a chorus, and then there's like some repetition. But a lot of the Bollywood music, even if it's more pop, like contemporary, there's a lot of variation and it's super rhythmic. And if you don't have a cajon or a drum set or something, you have to figure out like, how can you adapt those rhythmic elements to these melodic instruments? So it was tricky.
Well, that's hilarious that you say that, because I remember one time Corey and I were supposed to do like a wedding ceremony, and they asked us if we could do the True Romance theme. And I'm like, it's on like that. It's a marimba and like a drum is like what the theme is to that song. I'm like, we're a pianist and a guitar player. Like, do you want me to hit the side of the piano? Like, and like, I'm sure I could have arranged something, but like, it's just amazing to me, like, how much is that worth for your time? Because I mean, like, okay, so
this is part of the information gap though, because it's like even coming back to your brand, for example, some people will say like, oh, can you play, I want this song to be played at my wedding ceremony, but I want only a solo acoustic violinist. And I have to come back and say like, I appreciate that this is what you want. I don't think that I would recommend doing that, because first of all, it's not going to sound the way you think it's going to sound. And like, it's just, and I think it's not necessarily their fault. I mean, some people just don't understand that you can't take like a thick texture that has like harmonic elements and put it on a solo acoustic instrument. And oh, by the way, it's outside. And oh, by the way, there's no amplification, So part of our job too is to go back and say, listen, it's going to cost more to do it the right way, but this is how I would recommend you do it. You either arrange it for a bigger ensemble or you have some sort of backing tracks or like something. And you have to be like, this is really, really what you need. Take it or leave it.
And again, some people will take your advice and have like, okay, so do you think that maybe string trio would be better? Or what do you recommend, string quartet? And some people will just stay stubborn. They're like, no, we just want a solo violinist or a solo cellist. It will be fine.
No, but it's a damage to you though. I mean, like, but I honestly believe that if you go back and then you do that, then you go, you play, you feel stupid because nobody can hear you. It doesn't sound the way it's supposed to. And then inevitably the people are going to think, well, this cellist or violinist doesn't know what they're doing because this sounds silly.
Right.
Well, so I have couples like sometimes call and one of the reasons I say that, like, look, this is why people give me good reviews is because I try to save them from themselves, because you're not expected to know this stuff.
Let me save you from yourself.
That should be the byline on your website, saving you from yourself.
Do you arrange string music? Oh, you don't? Okay. So like, for example, somebody said to me the other day, like, we want to do a 60s and 70s theme for our wedding. I'm like, okay, my fiance only wants 60s and 70s music. How old are you? 30. How old are your friends? Mostly 30. Do they like to dance? Yeah. It's not going to work. And they're like, it's a guy calling me. And I'm like, listen, do you want to go back and be the coolest dude to your fiance ever? I'm like, so what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to get everyone to come and have a great party and kick them out at the end of the night because they're like so enthralled, like they've gone across the country with their chicks and their dudes and like they put on their dress and their suits and then they came and then they listened to a bunch of music that they didn't know? I'm like, because basically, do you want a 60s, 70s theme or do you want to look like it's 60s, 70s and then play Justin Bieber because that gets your friends going? I'm like, listen, I'll show up and be like Andy Kaufman, like reading the Great Gatsby to you and the entire crowd until everybody just leaves systematically. Like, I'll play Metallica, but I promise you your grandma won't dance unless she's the coolest grandma ever. Save them from themselves.
Great rant.
There's a lesson somewhere buried in this episode. And as we come to an end, it's up to you guys.
Leave it to the professionals.
Yeah. But I'm sure you don't. All that craziness you would never have to deal with, of course, if you hired Zuzana and Las Vegas Music Oasis. So be sure to check her out. This is part one. We're going to come back with part two, and we'll dive a little bit deeper. Anything you want to tell people about? Any cool projects coming up, or anything you want to let people know about?
Starset European tour.
Hell yeah. When does that kick off?
I think our first show is it in London around?
Yeah, it's at the end of
27th or
February.
something like
Yeah.
that. February
Yeah, so end of
27th.
February through the end of March, more or less.
Yeah,
Very
it's
cool.
actually it's only 4 weeks now because we don't go to Russia, so it's a short one. Obviously,
It's a smart decision.
smart move.
Guys
Yeah.
made. Yeah. All right, guys, check out 2020-d.com. Like and
Corey,
subscribe.
do you not remember our sponsor, Lost Symphony, that we actually have a song that's going to come out at some point this year that not only features
No, I
Z
forgot
down
about
there,
Lost Symphony.
but she has a solo. She has a solo in the song.
Ben is saving you from yourself, Corey.
Why don't we dive deep into that in part 2? We'll talk a little bit about Lost Symphony and the new single that will be coming out at
You
some
performed in front of Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
That's right. That's how I do.
point. We'll see you guys next week.
Subscribe.
2020-d.com. Like and subscribe.
What I find is that when I become indecisive, the best thing to do is to set it aside and get away from it. And sometimes it requires that I get away from it for a very long time and then go back and listen with fresh ears. And then a lot of times it's very easy. So next time you're in that situation, maybe just step away from it and then come back and listen and go. And the universe will help guide you. Trust me. And it's amazing how many times that's happened. It's been very beneficial.